Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome to the Folk Project of New Jersey's Inside the Song of March 12th, 2022. And here we host seasoned songwriters who play their original songs and then offer us some insight about the inspiration and process behind those songs. It's a behind the scenes glimpse of writing the songs that we absolutely love. I am Tina Ross. I am a singer songwriter, a lover of music and how it makes me feel, and how it connects us all and speaks to and for us on so many levels. Welcome. I am so excited that we have David Roth this evening. David Roth strikes many chords, hearts, and minds with his unique songs. His moving stories, offbeat observations, his sense of humor, and powerful singing is the perfect combination to draw us into his world of music. His songs have found their way to Carnegie Hall, the United Nations, several Chicken Soup for the Soul books, the Kennedy Center, NASA Space Shuttle, Peter, Paul, and Mary, and the Kingston Trio CDs. He has songbooks. He's been on Christine Lavin's compilations, and he's the winner of 5 Positive Music Awards, and you will see why. And as a singer, a songwriter, or a recording artist, a keynote speaker, a workshop leader, an instructor, he's earned top honors at songwriting competitions, Kerrville and Falconridge, and he has played just all over the world. And he runs tours, music tours in Ireland and Scotland. He's also the founder of the Cape Cod Songwriters Retreat and the executive director of Summer Songs, which is a summer retreat for songwriters, which is where I met him. So his songs range, you have a full range, and you get ready because they're poignant, they're improbable, they're holistic, and they're hilarious. And he exudes the warmth and love that draws us into his stories, his smooth and beautiful voice, and his sweet melodies. Please help me welcome David Roth. Yay! I am so happy you're here.
Thank you, Tina. I could have just listened to you talk all night.
Well, I'm going to listen to you talk all night, pretty much.
Fair enough.
I'm so happy you're here. You have inspired me for a very long time. I was just telling David that I've been on his mailing list, his email list, forever, and it's great to get it. So you can also get on his email list, and I'm sure you can go to his website and do that. Um, I just want to start off with a question. What I'm interested in is, what about songwriting compels you? Why do you write? Why do you write music?
It's a great question, and could be answered differently by anybody you ask. What I talk about in songwriting is that I seem to have found my voice in songwriting. I lived in a household that didn't feel very safe when I was young. It was very quiet, and so I use songwriting as a place to claim my voice where silence once felt safer. That's kind of how I started, I found a safety in songwriting, and that's not to mean I wouldn't go to daring topics with it, but I found something of comfort and solace and connection and meaning, just holding a guitar and feeling the way it vibrates against your body, and you're feeling your throat vibrate. There's something that's very connective to me about that.
When you say it's a place when silence used to be safe for you, that juxtaposition that I've never heard anyone quite say it like that, and I can see how on the other side of silence is music that just breaks down those barriers. You just put that beautifully. Thank you. That really brings us in. It's very honest, and it brings us into you, which will make your stories even more compelling than they already are. I'm so excited for people to hear your stories. You are a storyteller, for sure.
The irony here, Tina, is that I'm an introverted person. I've done Myers-Briggs personality profile a number of times over the years, but not really recently. And I'm in a category called INFP, and the first letter stands for introverted, and NFP, other things. and that's a single-digit percentile of the world at large. However, people who perform or speak for a living or on a stage, I think there was a psychological study that said like about 2/3 of these INFPs have a career where they're in front of other people.
So it is a way of inhabiting a different part of yourself, or
Yes, it's
being able
not a
to
Dr.
reach it.
Jekyll and Mr. Hyde kind of thing.
No,
I don't
no,
think
no,
it's
no.
way different parts of personality can emerge at different places. Maybe
Right,
there's a feeling of safety on a stage, or
right,
control, or any number
right.
of things. But again, it comes back to that how this feels. Here, 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 and of course here.
Yeah, beautiful. So let's start with a song. What song will you be starting with tonight?
Well, you asked me to pick about a half a dozen, and so I thought I'd go chronological just to kind of do from one of the title song of my first CD, or was it a cylinder or an 8-track? I'm trying to remember. Up to one I wrote 3 weeks ago, and a few things in between. So this is a title song of my first compact, just called "Rising in Love," 1986. I want to say. Everyone looks for their calling in love, but I always find it surprising the way people say that they're falling in love when I always felt I was rising, floating right off of the ground and reaching something that I only have dreamed of. I am not falling at all, I am rising in love. And everyone talks about tying the knot, but I have a hard time agreeing with the way that we bind up the love that we've got, when the feeling of love should be freeing, lifting each other up instead of giving one another a shove. We won't be falling at all, we'll be rising in love. How do you let love grow? You've got to give it a chance when you found it. A bird in your hand will stay until you start to close your fingers around it. Love is a river whose waters we test, and a measure of where we are going. But you never can step in the same river twice, for that water is constantly flowing. But the deeper the river, the greater the trust, and the more that we're rising above. We won't be falling at all, we'll be rising in love. I am not falling at all, I am rising. I'm not falling at all, I am rising. I'm not falling at all, I am rising in love. I'm rising in love. I am rising in love. I am rising in love.
We got a phone call there. Oh, that is so beautiful. I just love that concept, how you turn that around. That we're falling in love. No, we're rising in love. And that's so true. You just encapsulated that. That is so beautiful. And I like the bird in your hand. What is that line?
The bird in your hand will stay until you start to close your fingers around it.
Letting it go.
So if you're trying to hold something,
Right, right.
the best way to hold on to something is to hold freely.
Very so interesting with that song is that you used some like borrowed chords with that. Like I heard instead of a minor, you used a major. Like and that do you know where that is in the song? Like when you were at the very end when I always felt like I was rising, you did like an F. Is it an F sharp instead of an F sharp minor?
Not sure if that's the part you're
No,
talking about.
no.
But what I do want to say about this is that I wrote this in 1986, and
Yeah.
I felt like I was way ahead of myself when I wrote this song, because I've been catching. It took me a few years to catch up to that level. It was just something that kind of came through in a way I had never written a song like that before. And the chord changes were, I honestly can't say I know where they came from, except that I sat down and tried to follow the direction of the song. This is something in songwriting for me that's important. You know, you have an agenda when you sit down to write something, but it's important for me to be willing to surrender the agenda, and like the song will take you to a different place, a surprising place that you didn't expect, and that you didn't want to direct it to. But I found some beautiful moments in songwriting when I didn't stick to what I thought I was writing about, just kind of let it go off in a different direction a little bit. But I was a little bit ahead of myself with this, the sophistication of the chords and the voicings. I can't honestly say in 1986 where they came from, but everything felt right. Yeah, it felt
It
right.
does. It lifts you, the song. And you're saying it's interesting you say you're ahead of yourself. You just followed, so wherever you went, you weren't necessarily conceiving it. It was conceiving itself. So you were following it, and it was ahead of you rather than you being ahead of itself. I just find that really interesting the way you're putting that. Um, but it does. There's the chords, and that's kind of what I listen to when I'm listening to a song, and the chords are absolutely serving the feeling of this song, like the prosody of this song absolutely does. Like it raises where it needs to, and like you go to like maybe a B minor, like a six minor or something, where it just feels like, oh wow, like it feels like it lifted, and it's feeling. It has a feeling sense. I just love it. Whether you knew what you were doing or not at that time, it's really fantastic. It really is.
Thanks.
It's a great thing.
Yeah,
And that's
I've been playing it forever, and I don't get tired of playing it.
yeah.
For me, it feels like a timeless song. It doesn't feel like it goes on the shelf or has a short shelf life. And it's opened many doors for me.
That song in particular.
Yeah, that's among many, different depending on
Right.
the subject matter.
Right.
It's been played at a lot of weddings and things like that. Special celebrations where people can get together and that line, lifting each other up instead of giving one another a shove. It feels like I could have written that yesterday with the way the world is treating one another right now. Are we here to lift, or are we just going to be constantly, pushing each other farther into our corners?
That's a reason to write as well. When we talk about writing songs, songs are timeless often, and those are the best songs. And this is a timeless song, and we can point to something that happened yesterday or 50 years ago, and the song is still relevant. Especially when it comes to emotion.
Yeah, Pete Seeger co-wrote "If I Had a Hammer" in 1949. Thank you very much. That's 50 plus 20. That's over 70 years ago, and we still need to be singing these songs. This is what I ask myself. What have we learned in 70 years? Not a lot. Thank goodness he was around to write songs like that.
Oh yeah, and that's why, and we have people constantly writing songs that will become timeless, and many of your songs are actually like that. And I feel like part of it is because you're so adept at songwriting. You're a teacher. You're able to communicate well as a teacher. By the way, he is one of my teachers in summer songs. Is where I met David. But that somehow comes through in the music. The fact that you're able to communicate that well and kind of because part of teaching is bringing people with you, right? So that's what you're doing with your music as well. Always felt that way. Always felt that way. It's so amazing.
Every note and every word is important, like a hammer and a chisel. Stephen
It is.
Sondheim would agree. May he rest in peace. But he also said that you haven't worked hard enough for your song if you haven't rhymed everything perfectly.
Oh, I'd be in
And
trouble.
I say never let a rhyme get in the way of saying exactly what you want to say. So you can tell by the trajectory of his career and my career that he doesn't get to be interviewed by you tonight, and I do. So
Wonderful. So what is your next song? What would you
all
like
right,
to
we're gonna go to album number 2 or CD number 2 or 8-track
Great.
number 2. The inspiration for this song came simply from a book I was reading way back when. It was called "Even Cowgirls Get the Blues" by Tom Robbins. As I recall, the protagonist had a really large thumb, but rather than feel physically challenged, she was a hitchhiker. She used the prowess of her abnormality, her difference, to hitchhike. But in the introduction of this book is what got my attention. Tom Robbins talked about the human body. He talked about the human body. He said the human body was invented by water as a means to get from one place to another. And that idea just kind of grabbed hold on me, and then that brought me to spacesuits. On the day we're born, our soul is placed inside a special spacesuit. An amazing thing of flesh and bones, of fibers, tubes, and cells. Each one a different shape and size and many different colors, and it lets us move about the earth with other types of shells. Astounding as it seems, the suit is built to last a lifetime, though the measure of a lifetime seems to change from soul to soul. Some will last for many years and others but a moment, but each suit has been assembled with a purpose and a goal. The control box of the special suit's located in 3 places, and at any given time there's always one that takes the lead, causing all the other parts to follow blindly without question as it tries to give the soul the things it needs. The head or brain will analyze the environmental input, using logic, rhyme, and reason to devise the body's plan. The groin, much on the other hand, will travel on its instinct, hooking one suit to another when it can. But somewhere in the middle lies the greatest, grandest feature, often acting as a liaison, connecting part to part. It's the oracle of destiny, the pulse of life, the center. It's the thing we have in common called the heart. That's your part. It's the thing we have in common called And the heart, which does so many things, is molded by experience. It starts out very opened up and warm and soft and kind. Depending on the circumstance, it stays that way or changes as it grapples with the groin and with the mind. The mind might try to hide the heart, the shrewd Homo erectus, constructing extra layers of protection and defense. But often this gets in the way and doesn't help connect us. So the groin steps in to try and recompense. But somewhere in the middle lies the greatest, grandest feature. It's the oracle of destiny, connecting part to part. It's the oracle of destiny, the pulse of life, the center. It's that thing we have in common called the heart. When you have wordy songs like this, oh my God, it's a trap waiting to happen. Last verse. On the day we die, though I'm not sure, it's open for discussion. But I believe the spacesuit has fulfilled its earthly chore, providing home and shelter for this fragile human spirit till the time when it's not needed anymore. Then the soul will find another suit. It's kind of like recycling, though the lessons of the mind and grind aren't lost along the route. It's when we've learned to speak and listen, firstly from the heart, that our souls won't need these suits to move about. Somewhere in the middle lies the greatest, grandest feature. It's the oracle of destiny, connecting part to part. No sweeter music ever came from any kind of organ as the one we have in common called the heart. As the one we have in common called the heart.
Oh, I love this song. It is so beautiful.
Thank you.
What we have in common. And then we won't, just the idea that when we're truly living from our hearts, we won't even need this. I mean, I love that whole concept, which is true freedom. The true freedom. You're able to capture it. So you came from this idea of us of our bodies being a spaceship and talking about the the head and the groin and the heart, and you just took that concept, which is really unusual, right? And grounded it in the most incredible message. That is what you do. And I think that that is very hard to do in songwriting, and I think that you do it so well.
That's
Yeah,
very kind.
yeah.
This is a good representation of the songs I wrote before I started teaching songwriting.
Oh,
Penny Nichols invited me to be a teacher at her first summer songs in 1999. I hadn't really taught much before. And I said, absolutely, because even then I knew that you say yes and figure out how to later. And up until that time, I wrote songs like this, very wordy songs. There isn't a chorus, there isn't a repeatable section. I can trip all over my feet sometimes. And the beauty of that is I learned that I'll still be breathing. I don't have to be perfect all the time. In fact, I've inserted 7 mistakes into this show tonight so that I don't have to bear that burden of a flawless presentation. Just I'll trip over
I love
myself,
that.
but you get the meaning, and that's the thing. It's like what they said about Maya Angelou. It wasn't the words; it's how you felt when you were in a room with her. So the
Mm,
intention is good. But when I started teaching songwriting, then I found it useful to teach more structure.
mm.
Verse, verse, chorus, bridge, verse, chorus. That's kind of a Nashville formula for a hit song, but it's very useful, especially for people who haven't written before, to have like an outline of something to work with, a template, if you would, and there are countless numbers of them. And so then when I started teaching this these songwriting classes, or what I like to say, teaching that which cannot be taught, because it's so personal and so different for
Mm,
everybody.
mm.
Then I noticed that I was writing more songs with verses, choruses, and bridges, and repetition, and that sort of thing, which was a good tool to have in my toolkit for sure.
Well, that song has some structure to it, though. I mean, isn't the chorus like they put somewhere in the? Isn't that the chorus?
Yeah, somewhere in the middle. Yeah, it
Somewhere.
changes a little bit at the end. No sweeter music ever came from any kind of organ. A double
Mm.
entendre there. That's
Right,
a
right,
common
right.
common
And
chord.
then the repeating refrain, is also kind of like an anchor in the song.
Yeah,
And
but
I also
the most I can ever encourage an audience member to do is say the words "the heart." That's your
hard.
part. Trying to follow the rest of it might be treacherous at best.
Yeah, but and I also like just to say that you have an introduction in the guitar, and then you brought it back at the very end. As you were saying it to, in the heart, but the second to last time, and that to me is really cool. That you started with a certain guitar riff or so, and then you brought us back to it at the end. That just in turn musically, I think that was really great. And Cliff Eberhard was on the show, and he was talking about how he starts, so that's kind of where I'm thinking about it. Usually starts a song with something that isn't even in the song. And that's how he does. But that kind of felt like that. It was an intro, and then the rest of the song didn't have that. And then you came back to it. It was like, oh, it was familiar. I like that. I just like that. I think I'm going to do that. So what is what I'm saying?
I'm not even sure I was aware of doing it because sometimes the intros are always different. Yeah, introductions to any given song might vary from time to time.
Well, then you did it
I
though.
was onto something, I guess.
You're onto something. That's great. Wonderful song. So
Thanks.
what I do want to say, just free will donations that go directly to our artist David. In the chat are his links, but I'll just tell you in case you're not looking at the chat. PayPal.me/David Roth Music. Venmo is at David Roth 122, and you can also send a check to him at PO Box 495, Orleans, Massachusetts 02653. So let's show him some love. Okay.
When I signed up for Venmo and I got David Dash Roth Dash 122, I said, "There's 121 more of these out there."
Well, it has 22 in there, which is my
Oh
favorite
yeah,
number.
Venmo wants the last 4 digits of my number. Let's see, 360 8325. 8325. Okay. I'm not
So,
watching the chat. I don't. I
no,
like to pay full attention, but I'll save the chat and look at it later. And
yes.
so, but if anybody has a question for me, I can't track you by looking at a saved chat. So send me an email at davidrothmusic all one word, at gmail.com if you have a question about anything or an answer.
Perfect. And sign up for his email list because...
I don't overdo it, so don't worry.
No, you don't. You don't. Great. So what is your next song?
Well, I've got another guitar here. And I've modified this one a little bit because this is a song. One of the things I love writing about are amazing, ordinary people who do extraordinary things. And such is the case with the subject of this song. So I've modified my Rain Song carbon fiber guitar to sound a little bit like an African kalimba, a thumb piano, if you would. To tell you an amazing true story about one person who, through a simple action, not only changed the village she lived in, but the country that had the village, the continent, maybe the whole planet itself. I've got her book right here on my shelf. True story. Years ago, in the country of Kenya, they were cutting down trees till very few remained. The topsoil disappeared, the land became a desert. Life was hard to sustain. The women of the villages would go in search of firewood. Branches were scarce in this ocean of sand. One woman, Wangari, saw this taking place. She said, "We must take care of our land." So she planted a tree and planted another, in hopes she might see a little change begin. She also saw before her a giant undertaking, and so she organized her friends. They were part of the movement, recovering their land, bringing back the roots of Kenya from the sand. They were moving to make their homeland green, women planting trees. With a bag of seeds, she showed her neighbors about planting more trees, an act for which she paid them a small sum, a giant leap, and soon Wangari organized the women of the Kenyan nation. They are part of the movement, recovering their land, bringing back the roots of Kenya from the sand. They were moving to make their homeland green. Sing with me, women planting trees. And something else was happening, empowerment and strength. This was threatening to the men who made the rules. Wangari and her women friends were making real changes, so the policemen came and broke their tools. But they never broke her spirit, even though they tried. They accused her of subversion. They arrested her for crimes she carried on in spite of them, and kept on planting trees, saplings of pride and possibility. They were part of the movement, recovering the land, bringing back the roots of Kenya from the sand. They were moving to make their homeland green, women planting trees. Tree planting music, one by one. 30 years later, in the country of Kenya, 30 million new trees under African skies. Wangari is the first African woman to win the Nobel Peace Prize. She began the movement, recovering her land, bringing back the roots of Kenya from the sand. She was moving to make her homeland green. Women planting trees. They are part of the movement, recovering their land, bringing back the roots of Kenya from the sand. They are moving to make their homeland green. Women planting trees. Women planting trees.
Wonderful. Oh, please tell us how you modified that. How did you do that?
When I lived in New York City in the '80s and was, had every part-time job you can imagine, and was, going to Folk City in Greenwich Village every Monday night for the open mics, I was messing around with my guitar, trying different things. One thing I saw a guy do at the open mic was to tune his low E string all the way down to a C. That's rather commonplace nowadays, but back then it blew my mind. In my second album, I used it on 7 of 10 songs. I used this open G tuning with a drop C. But I also, I don't know, I think a piece of paper or something slipped in between my guitar strings, like the wrapper from a string of a guitar. And when I hit it, I thought, oh, wow, that's kind of neat. So I've modified that. This is like one of those cheap plastic rulers. I've also used pipe cleaners, and I've woven it under and over every other string.
My.
And that creates that kind of kalimba sound from what would otherwise sound like this. So if I play that song, with this, it's perfectly nice, but I think that the texture of a little piece of plastic contributes to the honor of
Yes.
someone like Wangari Maathai, and there's a book.
Wow. I think she also became part of, she was in Parliament, right? She actually was
Wouldn't
in
surprise me.
government.
She passed away
Yeah.
at 70 years old about, I don't want to say 4 or 5 years ago. And the Greenbelt movement, to my knowledge, is still going strong. And she,
Yeah.
single-handedly helped reforest the country of Kenya. There's one person making a difference. Just imagine.
Absolutely. And then you're writing the story about that. So when you approach a true story, um, it's very different when writing a historical song or a true song versus something just from our imagination. Is there a way that you approach that, or are there certain things that you feel you need to include in that song? Or how do you approach an absolutely true song that you're not putting, any spin on? That you're just telling
Observing.
someone's story and observing. So yes. So is there a way that you approach that as a songwriter?
Well, yeah, I do. I consider this in a way musical reporting, I guess, of sort, and that leaves no room for the first person in there,
Yes.
It's a story about somebody, so I'm just telling a story as if I were narrating the story to you. Now, for me, an effective story song leaves a crucial bit of information for the end. What leads up to, what is, all right, this is this is a really great thing, but that she wins the Nobel Peace Prize is just like the cherry on top of the icing on top of the.
Right.
I have a myriad of story songs. I love inspiring people that you never hear about, and written a slew of them. But usually, the thing that makes those songs effective is it's a great story already. It's just a great story, but then there's something extra about it, that I would like to bring in at the end that just takes it up one notch, even though it's already perfectly good the way it is.
Right. Like in a story, when you're writing a story, there's usually some kind of a crossroads or just, tension, and then there's the resolution. And so that's kind of what you're talking about is, the arc of the story and just, yeah, that sounds like a good plan when you're writing the story, and then it also brings people in, and it's like, oh, and then they'll go look that person up, right? And you're passing on that information.
Well, the work comes from the first line, I think, to get people engaged. How can you tell the story in such a way that it's not just another story that, and our attention spans are just becoming more and more disheveled, all the time,
Yes.
with all these gadgets and devices and buttons that we're pushing, it's very, we have this thing called, attention deficit disorder. When I was a kid, it was, hey, pay attention,
Right. Right.
hey, pay attention.
That's true. I have to say that the bridge in that song is really satisfying. I
Yeah,
did,
again, an example of that influence, of teaching songwriting. Yes, and in a bridge, of course, something that's new information. This is where the men had tried to sabotage what she was doing, but she would not be deterred and
right.
kept on.
Yes. But both content and musically, there's just something about where it went that was just really satisfying as well. So, that's the whether it was conscious or not, and you were allowing it to unfold. It's a great bridge. Just telling you, it's a great bridge. Bridges are
Yeah, not every song has to have a bridge, but
no.
I believe, for me, I believe the bridge serves two functions. It introduces a different musical idea, a change of chords in this case. And if there's any guitar nerds out there, this guitar, even though it had a modification on it, was tuned in dadgad. And I'm on the 5th fret with a capo, and I'm playing out of what I call the second position, which would be the G position, and not the D position in dadgad. So write me an email, and maybe you can explain it to me better than I just explained it to you.
No, that was great. Yeah, there are people that definitely are here that want to hear those kind of things too. Wonderful, great, fantastic song. And I did, after I heard that. Now, I heard the recording of that, and you also used this guitar on that. I thought it was a kalimba. You used this guitar on that.
I used this kind of guitar. It wasn't
Kind of
this
guitar.
graphite. It was a wooden guitar, but I used 2 tracks. I played 2 tracks of these modified guitars kind
Yeah,
of harmonizing with each other.
fantastic. Really.
It's fun. It's fun to do that.
Yeah, yeah. There's also, I saw someone who took a piece of duct tape and put it on the bridge, and it also creates a similar sound. So that's another thing to try. You could try that maybe.
Well, there have been times when I've showed up somewhere where I wanted to play that song, and only if I usually have a second guitar with me rather than go through all the retuning in front of an audience. Who wants to see
Right.
that? But I've forgotten my little doohickey, so I can just take a piece of paper, make a little piece of paper, rip it off, and put it in there. It'll give a different effect, but it gets the idea across of transporting us to another place.
Yes, absolutely. Well, many of us will be doing that in, half an hour. We're going to be figuring that one out. So what is your next song for us?
Oh, let's see. Oh yeah, actually, it's a song about songwriting. I thought that would be good to do one of those in here. This is a few years ago here on the Cape. We had a series of concerts for several years called Yule for Fuel, where a bunch of Cape Cod musicians and artists would get together and put on a concert out in Wellfleet. And it was to raise money for our neighbors who needed a little help with their fuel oil bills. To get through the long, cold Cape Cod winters, many of our friends try to make their year's worth of income here on the Cape from Memorial Day to Labor Day. It's a tourist economy, totally. So we would have Yule for Fuel, and one year they were celebrating Irving Berlin. And instead of inviting us all to play our own precious little music, they asked us to learn a couple songs by Irving Berlin, and by the time I got to this list, all the ones I knew had been taken. And so I had to do some digging on the internet, and I found a beautiful nugget called Waiting for the End of the Road, about the traveler who comes home looking for the candle in the window. I learned that one. And it's about 2 or 3 days before the concert, and I'm stumped for my second song, and I really have to come up with something. And I thought, hey, wait a minute. I'm a songwriter. What if I wrote a song and everybody thought it was by Irving Berlin? And this is what resulted. I did not do a good job of disguising that it was not by Irving Berlin right from the first line, but I sure had a lot of fun, and I threw this on that album, which was being mastered at the last minute, in one take because it was so much fun. If I could write a song like Berlin, I'd be in a different tax bracket than the one I'm in. My car wouldn't have 233,000 miles and counting. If I could write a song like Berlin. Oh, if I could write a song like Berlin, probably would have pleased my next of kin. My father's name was Irving, too, a Russian immigrant Jew who hoped his only son would be a doctor, or a dentist, or accountant, or a lawyer. Instead, I'm standing in the foyer, looking in to see if I could write one like Berlin. Alexander had a ragtime band and a sound that was quite unique. If I'd composed How Dry I Am, we'd be dancing cheek to cheek. But if I could write a song like Berlin, I'd be writing the soundtrack for the time when they were making bathtub gin. Every single night we would be putting on the Ritz. It's what we'd be doing if I could write a song like Berlin. But my songs don't sound like Berlin songs, they're just a little bit off. Just like my dad in synagogue, I sound like Irving Roth. Oh, if I could write a song like Berlin, I would only write an F sharp like he did. He had a set of 88s with a lever he could lift. Oh man, oh, Irving had a capo for his piano. I bet he did not drive a car. I heard he was occasionally stuffy. I bet he did not play guitar or marry Trisha Duffy. I did, but the man, he had a way with a tune. He had the sun in the morning and the moon at night. God Bless America came out all right, part magician, kinda like a musical Merlin. No one could compose him quite like Berlin. For Hanukkah, my father went to Panama at the Isthmus. The other Irving stayed at home and penned one called White Christmas. That's a tune that made some money for the man, and Irving had an awful lot of fans. There's no business like show business he came upon. The song is ended, but the melody lingers on. That fella, he could really, really write a song. He wasn't swerving. No one could compose him quite like Irving. If I could write a song like Berlin.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, my cheeks are hurting.
Oh,
That is so
my
great.
brain is hurting. I can remember that one though.
Wow, that is so fantastic. Oh my God, those inner rhymes and those rhymes in that. My gosh, foyer and lawyer and Merlin, Berlin. Oh my gosh. Piano. What did you do with piano? Something.
Capo for piano, yeah. Mano, mano.
Mano, mano, mano. Oh my gosh. That is great.
You know,
And all
songwriting should be fun, you know, and I had fun writing that song. It should be
that
fun.
that really is fun. That's fun. And for him, it's interesting you're writing about the Irving Berlin, who really wrote very direct songs. He wasn't complicated, right? Which is like the folk tradition. So, and he's considered one of the greatest songwriters. So,
You know, yeah, White Christmas, Easter Parade. You know, this Russian Jewish guy who
yeah,
he was, you know.
yeah. Anything I can do, you can do better. He did too, right? That
I
was
guess, you know, I think I was holding a quiz for a while when I was playing that song regularly. If anybody could give me the first person who could give me the exact number of Irving Berlin song titles, uh, would get a free CD or something like that. And
did
my
whatever.
goal in performing that song is that people like lose track and just kind of get carried away with it, like I am, you know. So I mean,
Oh yeah, that's just a fantastic song. It's great, and then just kind of really moving along. I love it. The beat is just great, and also how you sing it when you're like a little behind the beat. That's also really great.
that's a fun one to do that on. You know, I picked up a little bit of that from one of my all-time heroes, Steve Goodman, the great songwriter from Chicago, and he would do things like that. In fact, he did take me out to the ball game where he was singing the words like one beat ahead of the notes. It's the most mind-bending thing you've ever heard in your life, and he would do that swingy little thing too, where he was in the rhythm with the guitar, but he was playing with the rhythm of the words within. You know, they're two different things, and so that comes out in that song a little bit for me.
Oh, for sure, and it's a good part of the song.
Yeah.
And when you're trying to catch up, it's very cool. Great song. I'm glad that you went out of the, I guess the instructions, and look what happened. You followed your muse, which is very cool.
Oh,
Yeah.
and I tell you, I was nervous that night because I was playing in front of all these people. I'd never played it before. That night, in front of 300 people at the Wellfleet Harbor Actors Theater, and that was a profile in courage, I guess, is the only way I could say it. So the first time I play a song is always the hardest time in
It
front of
is.
an audience.
It is absolutely. So I just want to remind you all that there are links in the chat, and actually there was a question. I'll just ask you. Somebody said, "Oh my gosh, something about were you a journalist prior to doing songwriting?" Somebody said something like that.
I took communications in college. I have an
Oh,
undergraduate degree for whatever that's worth from the University of Illinois, but I did take a couple of journalism classes, the who, what, where, when, and how kind of approach. Um, but I've used the phrase musical journalist, in a song like an old song called Manuel Garcia. It's about a man from Milwaukee who had a big family, lived in a tight community, Hispanic community, and got diagnosed with cancer and came home from cancer treatments with all his hair had fallen out, and 50 of his male friends, all ages, had all shaved their heads to welcome him home. And this was back in the 1980s. You're hearing a little bit more about these now and then. Doesn't make it's a great thing. So that's a long narrative story, about what happened from beginning to end about Manuel Garcia. And this was way before internet, so I was like writing down the phone number of the Milwaukee Sentinel at the telephone book room at Grand Central Station in New York City. They had a room full of all the national telephone books, and you could go there and get phone numbers. Like I got a Milwaukee. I knew the name of the writer who wrote the little thing. Different kind of research these days.
Yes, but it does take a lot of research to write these songs that you're doing, that you write. The historical songs or the songs about people. But then it's not dry. You're able to entertain us, which is really a great thing. It's not just a historical piece of journalism. It's a beautiful song.
Some would say that a music is more accessible for a message than a
Yeah,
speech.
yeah,
You know,
yeah. Right.
unless you're listening to, you were listening to Maya Angelou, or somebody like that
Yeah,
whose words were musical and
right.
poetic without notes per se.
Absolutely.
But, she
Absolutely.
was a musician as far as I was concerned.
So where are we going next? Where are you taking us
Our
next?
little tour here. Doing well on time, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. We're good.
I brought a co-writer in on this one. This at Summer Songs, and Charlie and I were trying to figure out if this was 2017, 18, or 19. It's Stony Point, New York, where we have our camp, and we're having it this summer, last week of July. All levels, please come join us, even if you've never written a song before. It's a great group of people, a wonderful community. Charlie Koch is married to Cozy Sheridan, and Charlie is an amazing musician, and I look to Charlie as one of the most creative guys when it comes to sequencing chords and things. So I wanted to address this quiet that I taught and referred to earlier in my childhood. There was a lot of quiet in that house, but there was a lot of tension and a lot of battle, underneath the silence. So I wrote out a set of lyrics, and the song's called Quiet Wars, The Quiet Wars. And I wanted something different, musically. So I brought him to Charlie. I said, hey, Charlie, can you work on the music with me with this? Because I love the way your chords change, And this is something I also believe in songwriting. If there's someone out there who's got a skill set that you don't, and if you're not so wedded to the idea that you have to be the only writer on any given song, it's a great thing to use all the resources and all the things in somebody else's toolkit. And Charlie puts great chord progressions together. So I handed him these words, and he came back to me with something, I think it was an A minor, and we kind of banged it out, based on a rough framework that he have. I was texting him earlier today because I couldn't remember what we did for the bridge, so I just made something up and hope that it's a bit of a stretch. But this is good because it's kind of in process, but it's really close. I got a bag when I was young, never planned to get. And through the years I've filled it up with quills and with regrets. If anyone would get too close, I'd use these quills and force. Defend and fight off and protect. I started many wars. Quiet wars, the ones I fought behind closed doors. Open wounds and open sores. Quiet wars. As time went on and I moved round, this bag was in my way. Invisible and cumbersome and growing every day. And still I filled and filled it up with things I could not face. It took the room I could have used for beauty and for grace. Quiet wars, the ones I fought behind closed doors. Open wounds and open sores. Quiet wars. That wasn't you who did that thing that got me so unglued. That was me and my old thinking, putting it on you. So nowadays I'm looking at the way I am today. The finger pointing and the blame, the urge to run away. But that was then, and this is now, and now no place to hide. I let it go and dropped the bag with all that was inside. Quiet wars, the ones I fought behind closed doors. Open wounds and open sores. Quiet wars, the ones I fought behind closed doors. Open wounds and open sores. Quiet wars.
I don't want to say anything. That is that is just exquisite. Thank you for that song. Wow. I well, I'm a little bit thrown, so wait one second. It is so you know, so real and authentic and in terms of, it's just simply the words, the way that you're bringing us through, that you carried this, you're carrying this through your life, and it's so relatable that I think that most everyone will feel that, which makes for a great song as well. But and when you talk about the the music in that song, I mean, that it's in a minor key, and I always go to that, so I'm just going to go there and just for 1 second, because the minor key, and then there are diminished chords in that too.
In the bridge, yeah,
In the bridge.
I
Yeah.
put together for tonight. So
Yeah, yeah. And that I feel like not that it's manipulating, but it's really bringing us into that same space that you did. And I have to say that the interval of quiet wars, that four, something about that to me is very, almost, it's a little unsettling, yet when you have a sus chord, you feel like you want it to move, but when you have a fourth, to me, it's like a little unsettling, but it's very emotional. I just love that interval. So I'm just saying, it's really just the choices that you make are just amazing. It's such a revealing song. I may want to cover this song. Just saying. It's beautiful. It's
You know,
gorgeous.
and I was toying with the idea of trying to learn it on piano for tonight, but I just haven't got there yet because the voicings I could get on a piano with a song like this, and this is something I've been able to do during the pandemic, is take songs that I've played on guitar forever. First of all, they're all about 3 or 4 keys lower than they were when I wrote some of them 30 years ago. The voice is changing. But spending more time at the keyboard, so when you get a song like this, bum, ba da 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 dum, da 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 but da da dum da 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 dum da 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 dum da dum bum ba da 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 and then you got quiet wars, the ones there's a chord that the ones I find behind closed doors, open wounds and open sores. Quiet wars. You know, so there's a lot of possibility there for a simple piano to just
Really embellish it. Yeah,
yeah
there's sus-twos in there.
without overdoing it.
Wow. Right. It's just beautiful. It's just so, I'm so glad you played that song.
Hmm.
Is that not recorded on any of your albums?
You know, it's recently revisited, and I'm going to make a recording. I think it's called A Few Curveballs Here and There, although there's no song by that name, but it's just about the last 2 years. Most of the songs I've written, I wrote a song about one of my heroes, John Prine. I wrote a song with Grant Baldwin about When the Universe is Ready and Quiet Wars and some others. About 16 songs. I'm going to maybe pick 12 of them and just do voice and guitar or voice and piano or one extra instrument to kind of reflect the isolation, but also to for me to let the songs stand on themselves and not necessarily the production
Mm,
aspect, a big production.
right. Your
Um,
songs will be fine. Your songs are absolutely fine on
so,
their own. You are between your voice and your playing and the structure of those songs. I do want to say that I will be attending Summer Songs
ah,
uh, this year, and I was there the last time it was in person as well. It is unbelievable. Please look it up. Summersongsisit.org, and it is just the most amazing. I have made friends there. I see people here that Len Seligman is here and
hi, Lynn.
people, yeah, people that I met there that are just dear to me. It is just an amazing group of people, teachers, life changing. It's absolutely life changing. So I do want to encourage that. I'm going to wrap up and then David's going to do his last song out. Um, I do want to say that this inside the song happens not by one person or two people, but there's a whole bunch of people behind the scenes that make this happen at the Folk Project of New Jersey. Um, there's Mark Schaefer and Gary Pratt, John Lamb, Kathy Cacavelli, Sam Edelson, George Otto, and behind the scenes, the magical person behind the scenes is Todd Dennison. He's producing the show. He's just extraordinary and wonderful. Um, and the Folk Project of New Jersey does 200 or more shows online a year, probably more now. Folkproject.org. Please consider becoming a member or just getting involved or watch the so many. It's great programming for people who are music lovers and music makers. So it's just an incredible, loving community of people. Please consider getting involved and certainly coming. Um, I wanted to say I usually end with a quote, and this quote is not somebody that lots of people know, but there's a Portland singer songwriter that I first heard on Sirius XM. His name is Tyler Stenson. I don't know if anybody knows who he is. Um, and he has this quote that he has, and it may even be in a song. It says, "Don't whisper softly the things you want loudly to be." And I just really feel like that is encapsulates what songwriting is that you're willing to stand in the message and the feeling that you just want to impart to or the emotion that you love for someone else to feel, And I just loved the juxtaposition of the soft and the loud in that. So, yeah, songwriting is a precious thing. So I want to thank you, David. This has been a wonderful, wonderful hour. I just hope that there are people that haven't heard you that now know you, and people that know you and just want to keep on going forward and listening to your music. It will last forever for sure. Your music is just wonderful. Thank you for coming. And David's going to play us a song. Would you like to say something about your
Well,
song?
and thank you again for the honor
Yeah.
of this opportunity. I love music, and I consider it had to have been a lifeline for me, for the longest time. And at our songwriting camps, wherever they are, we want to foster the idea that we want you to become the best you that you are, and not try to become something like somebody else. Just everybody's got unique talents, and we strive to enhance them. So this last song it's my newest. It's about 3 weeks old, and it's already taken wings. I'm happy to say there's a choir up in Brattleboro, Vermont called the River Singers that is taking it up, and they were conducted by Dr. Kathy Bullock, the former music chair at Berea College in Kentucky, a no-tuition college down south where kids can get a college education, even if they don't have the resources to go. So Dr. Kathy and I were sharing a noonday Daily Antidote of Song. It's a wonderful program. Just Google that, Daily Antidote of Song, and show up there at 12 noon tomorrow. They've been doing a sing-along every day for over 700 days, 7 days a week, with a song leader like me, or my dear friend Reggie Harris, or Sally Rogers, or too many to mention here. I'll be leaving them out. And it's a great community. And on April 13th, I was invited to be the singer, and I've done about 15 of these for these beautiful people over the duration. And news of our new Supreme Court Justice had just come, and I heard a song, and I wasn't planning to play this song that day. I was just like working on it that morning, but I decided to give it a try, and Dr. Bullock took it to her choir, the River Singers, and she sent me a video of them singing it at a big concert over the weekend. Very, very heartwarming. I felt like this is one of those stories that could not be overlooked with all that's going on in the Ukraine and all the things going on in the world. This is something to celebrate, and we need to have those as much as anything else. A sing-along chorus, too. Who knew? There's a new name in our awareness, who has climbed a height where few have gone. This is a wondrous appointment. Ketanji Brown Jackson. There are those who did oppose you. There are those who lent support. One generation from segregation. We've got a new judge on our court. Ketanji, Justice Ketanji. Oh, what a bar you raise, Ketanji, Justice Ketanji. We sing your name with praise. Try the chorus. Ketanji, Justice Ketanji. Oh, what a bar you raise. Oh, what a bar you raise, Ketanji, Justice Ketanji. We sing your name with praise. We sing your name with praise. In a moment, history changes. In an instant, consciousness shifts. When you raise your hand, you raise us all. We will be better for your gifts. Ketanji, Justice Ketanji. Oh, what a bar you raise. Ketanji, Justice Ketanji. We sing your name with praise and rise above the spite of shallow haters who have lost their way. You shine a light, you are the change, bring us a brand new day. There's a new name in our awareness. You have climbed a height where few have gone, and I stand in the light of your guidance. Ketanji, Ketanji Brown Jackson, Ketanji, Ketanji. Oh, what a bar you raise. Ketanji, Justice Ketanji. We sing your name with praise. Justice Ketanji. Oh, what a bar you raise. Ketanji, Justice Ketanji. We sing your name with praise. We sing your name with praise. Your turn. Sing your name with praise. Everybody. We sing your name with praise. Justice Ketanji. What a pleasure, what a blessing to do this work with you all. May we continue. And I'll leave you with the words of Joan Baez, one of our own. She said, "Action is the antidote to despair." Thank you and good night.